for Success, your second session. So after this, you're going to be halfway done with your day. It's going to be exciting. I'm Kathleen Langlois. I will be one of the people leading through this session today, and I lead the talent development team.
Ken Sloan, Central Region RVP.
Greg Chabot, North Central RVP.
Jen Gibson, part of the social wellness team.
When we think about jockeying for success, all of you guys are jockeys in your buildings, right? You're the leaders. You're the one that are taking your teams forward to achieve success. And last night at the awards, it was amazing to hear all of the success that you're doing. All of the things that you have to work for are amazing. All the quality indicators, all the goals that are set out before you. And even this morning, Steve gave you a BHAG, another big goal that we're going to be working toward. And as we do that, I think of the jockeys that wear the goggles with the mud kicking up in their faces, and it blinds them. Pardon me? One of the things that is, I gotta get my get back on track here. One of the things that is really important is that while we're focusing on achieving those successes, achieving those goals, we can lose sight of the most critical element to doing that, and that's developing a people-oriented culture based on our care values. And doing that will help us to achieve those successes, right? So we're going to hear first about a legendary jockey. His name's Bill Shoemaker. We're going to watch a video of him at his retirement. And on the other side of that, we're going to ask you 5 questions about the information about him, and you have the opportunity to win a derby dollar that you can use, or tonight, whatever it is, for the raffle. Okay? So let's watch the video about Bill Shoemaker and learn a little bit about what made him a legendary jockey.
52nd and final time. 58-year-old jockey Bill Shoemaker got a leg up on a thoroughbred. In 6 different decades, he has ridden to the post and then come back to the winner's circle 8,833 times, an all-time record. His mounts have earned a total of more than $123.3 million. The shoe had won over 1,000 stakes events, 11 Triple Crown races, and ridden 8 different Horse of the Year winners. His 41-year riding career started at Golden Gate Fields in Northern California in 1949. It ended on February 3rd, 1990 at Southern California's Santa Anita in the 5th race, the Legend's Last Ride. Shoemaker, fittingly, was on the oldest horse in the field, 7-year-old Patchy Ground Flock, number 1A. And they're off, and Shoemaker gets Patchy Ground Frog away quickly and clean, but Bill's 2 most important fans, his wife Cindy and his 9-year-old daughter Amanda, looked on. Bill Shoemaker on the outside challenging, and down the stretch, he comes! Shoemaker on the outside with a short lead. O'Reilly charging up in the middle of the racetrack, but Shoe has the lead, 50 yards from home. Here comes Exemplary Leader on the inside. Exemplary Leader with Eddie Delahousie will win it by a half. The 4th place finish didn't make any difference to Shoe or his fans. Ceremony earlier in the day, usually unemotional Shoemaker had to pull himself up.
Anyway, I want to thank all these fellas behind me here that I've ridden with all these years, 30 or 40 years. I've had a lot of fun with it. Thank you very much.
It did, really. I didn't think it would, but it did. When I turned into all those jocks and knew I wouldn't be around and I didn't see me that much anymore, it did get to me.
And while Bill Shoemaker had no doubts, no second thoughts about ending his race riding career, it's his peers here in the Santa Anita Jockey's Room that he's going to miss the most. For Shoe, it's always been a very special place.
Yes, I've had a great time there. Kibitzing with the guys, playing cards with them, joking with them, and playing pranks on them. They got him living the last day, though.
Saturday was a celebration of a true sports legend. And from the Railbirds numbering more than 63,000 fans at Santa Anita to President Bush in the Oval Office, they all paid their respects to the Shoe.
It's been your drive and energy and spirit that truly distinguish you as a Hall of Fame jockey. Bill, best of luck.
Wow. Okay, so he had a great career. We're going to have 5 questions about his career. Raise your hand if you think you know the answer. My partners are going to see whose hand goes up first, and they have the chance to get one of the Derby dollars. Number of decades he raced in. Hand up, and then you guys will call him. Not 4. 5. Tiga. 5. No, not 5. One more guess. 6. 6 decades. That's a lot. Number of career wins. Big number. 45, yeah, a little more than that. 8,833 career wins over those 6 decades. So he was very, very successful. What was his age at retirement? How old was he when he retired? 58, yes. So you think about 6 decades, he's 58, he started in 49, ended in 90, math works out. So as a jockey, that's old. You know, he's an athlete, so he's fairly old. He's had a long, very successful career. How many Triple Crown victories did he have? What?
I do apologize.
How many Triple Crown victories?
I don't know.
11, right, Jenna? And what did he say he missed the most when he retired? The jockeys, exactly. Yeah, he wasn't going to miss that thrill of riding down the straightaway to the finish line, crossing the finish line, the cheering crowds, being in the winner's circle. He wasn't going to miss any of that. He was going to miss his competitors, the jockeys that he worked with, and the environment that he was around. And many of the things that he did really created his legacy and what he did. So let's hear some things about him. So he was respectful of his fellow competitors. He was always treated them with respect. He had personal integrity as a jockey as well as in his personal life. He was graceful in victory and defeat. He remained a very humble gentleman even though he had tremendous success. He committed to fair play. He followed the rules of horse racing. And we know today that doesn't happen all the time. We've had a few instances in the last few years. Sometimes driving for that success, trying to win, causes people to do things outside the rules. One of my favorite is mentoring and sharing knowledge. He mentored younger jockeys. He shared his knowledge with them. He helped to develop them so they could be successful. And he was always polite with his fans. So he had a number of different people that he interacted with, and he did it in a wonderful way that created a culture around him. And many of the things that he did as a jockey are things that you guys can do as jockeys in your building. You are the jockeys, you are leading the way in your building. And many of the things that he did, again, will help you to create the right path, because getting to the finish line, how we get there is just as important as getting there. And the things that you do, last night we heard a lot about culture with the award winners, and that's what's going to make you successful. All right, so our plan today, we're going to talk about civility and incivility, why that's important, how do you foster a culture of civility, and then your commitment cards. As we go through the day, the next 45 minutes, if things pop up that you're like, I like that idea, go ahead and write it on your commitment card. You'll have a few minutes at the end of the session to do that as well. All right, so you have a QR code at your table. We'd like you to use that. And what word comes to mind when you think of civility?
Jeez.
Boring.
Well, that could be a word you could use. Kindness. Respect. Omar. Okay. Polite. Cooperation. Respect is the largest word, so that means it's been the one that's been most submitted. Personable, peace, politeness, wholesome relationships.
I don't think so.
Okay, so respect is the strongest, and that's absolutely right. A lot of those words are the words that we would use to describe a civil environment. Oh, I got to do that up here. So what is civility? It's polite and courteous behavior. It's how we interact with others and treat others with kindness. Incivility, it's not exactly the opposite of civility, but it's disrespectful and rude, inconsiderate behavior that leads to a hostile or negative work environment. And it's that environment that's going to get in the way of success, right? That's not going to allow you to have the success that you want to have. Okay, so what are some examples of incivil behavior? Let's have Okay, so Gina, what's an example of incivil behavior?
Taylor.
Taylor.
Oh, we're trying to have some fun.
A behavior, a specific behavior. Interrupting, exactly. What's another one?
Oh my.
A behavior. Interrupting, what else? Rudeness. How about one from this table?
Not listening.
Not listening, absolutely. Okay. You guys have them all. These are some other examples. Rolling your eyes. We hear that a lot. Ignoring people. Looking at your phone when someone's talking to you. Yelling, demeaning comments. We talk about ignoring someone. I work in an organization where every time we pass someone in the hall, we were supposed to greet them. Hello, good morning, a smile, something. You never walk past a person without doing that. And that just is that consideration of recognizing them as a human. So why does incivility really matter? I'm going to pass this off.
All right, so why is it important to ASC? First and foremost, it encompasses every bit of our core values, especially compassion, respect, and then it obviously creates a culture that is inviting and engaging and respectful also.
I can't hear you.
You can?
No.
Seriously?
No, not seriously.
You guys stand by me?
There you are. Come on.
Clearly he was.
James, get it together.
Well, I tell you what. All right, is that better? Okay. All right, takes a moment.
I still can't hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me. So civility helps improve cooperation, reduces conflict, and contributes to a sense of community and respect. But what are the impacts of a negative culture? And I think we know that a negative culture is reflected in poor employee conduct, poor relationships, conflicts, and poor communications. So the three resulting concerns are increase in compliance surveys, increase in complaint surveys, sorry, got them flipped, and then increase in turnover. The problem with the increase in turnover is that has subsequent issues also, right? So we lose knowledge and expertise, which lowers our quality of care. At the same time, we lose time. How much time do we spend hiring and firing and orientating and training, right? And then the cost, which we'll look at in the next slide. Well, when you look at it, you know, this company spends nearly $10 million a year just on training. That does not include the lost time. The most important part of turnover is that it always cycles back to the top two. It always cycles back to complaint surveys and compliance calls. We just had an issue, and not to bring up a building, but we had 8 complaints, 7 of them anonymous, all employee related. So without civility, care values can never be fully realized. And here is the graph. So you guys can see, and Steve went over it a little bit earlier. You saw the LPNs and the CNAs and the turnover that we had in 2023 was higher, and that's why you're seeing the increased cost. But you're looking at $8.6 million a year just for training costs, not even your lost time. How much time do we give away of talking about our building and how do we get better, as opposed to just going out there and interviewing and interviewing and interviewing and firing and writing up and writing up. Culture means something. Yeah, you need it all the wires.
Okay, so at ASC, we love metrics, right? There's a dashboard for everything. But how do you measure civility? You can't just click on Power BI and click on the civility tab and it tells you, what percentage you're at. So Ken just talked about turnover, but the other two good metrics that you can look at would be your 360 calls and your employee surveys. So first we'll go ahead and look at the 360 calls. So this is a graph. The last 3 years, we just took out only the HR related calls on our 360 calls. And as you can see, over the last 3 years, it's more than doubled. And it's not the trend that we want to go in. So our goal obviously would be to reverse that. Now if we break down these calls a little bit more though, what were the calls about? So the positive of this, you can see we improved on discrimination and staff conflict. So we'll take those positives. Unfortunately, harassment and bullying have also nearly doubled, which when we're talking about civility, how we treat people, how people feel, all that good stuff, that's going to go right into harassment and bullying. And then the one that stands out to me the most, who calls in these 360 calls? Who's calling in these harassment, bullying calls to our 360 hotline? And it is overwhelmingly our employees. You could look at the numbers and say, but hey, it decreased 1% to 2% over the last 3 years. But if you look at the anonymous calls, those went up to 7%. And I think, as Ken would probably say too, a lot of those anonymous calls are our employees. So if you add that 7% into the employees, it's grown over the last 3 years as well.
I said Central Region has 100% of the 7%. I can't believe it's only 7%, right? I mean, most feel anonymous.
Yeah, I agree. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Kathy. But seeing that, our focus has to be on our employees. By now, I think everybody in this room has heard of Retain. We know that our new employees get surveyed 4 times in the first 100 days. Hopefully everybody has a profile set up for our employee survey starting in May. But if you don't, let's get those done. But these are actual statements from our own employees that they've said about our buildings and our leadership. I won't read them all, but some things that just stand out. Basically, the ED rarely acknowledged anyone's success. Someone was physically and verbally mean to a resident and nothing happened. Dropping down to the bottom part, management didn't get back to them. And the one that I like, better management organization standards followed. I think so many times we're afraid to address a situation, we're afraid to address if somebody is being incivil right away in the moment, Omar. But I think knowing that our employees, they want standards, they want structure, they want accountability. And if we can give that to them as leaders, it's up to us in this room to set that standard, and we'll see those numbers improve.
I'm going to try not to yell at you guys. I scream when I train, when I educate. Okay. Has anybody heard the term, that got my goat? They got my goat. What does that mean? Something was irritating? Yeah. Omar really got my goat. Does anybody know where that term came from? It's actually a racehorse term. Racehorses have a tendency to become very anxious. And so they put goats in their stalls to keep them calm. So people are trying to be nefarious, throw their race off, and so they'll go in the middle of the night and steal that goat. They got my goat, right? So the performance is not going to be as well the next day. When someone is in civil, it affects all of us on an individual basis, as a group, and ultimately, for those of us in the room, as a community. It becomes a culture. When I listened to the award show last night, The repetitive theme was building a culture. So building this culture of civility is important for all those other metrics.
So we're getting goats, Jen?
So somebody at your table today was playing the role of being uncivil. Please stand up and reveal yourselves.
I am so stressed out right now.
Was it hard?
It was horrible.
Omar, you owe me one. I was your bodyguard. This table up here is about to walk.
My face like totally red.
I think Janine may have called HR already.
I was like, is this a joke?
So we asked these people, thank you guys, thank you for giving them dollars. We asked them to act in uncivil ways until we told them to stop.
Please stop.
Being rude, disrespectful, inconsiderate, all those behaviors, rolling their eyes, answering the phone call, getting up, throwing pop cans away, saying rude things. Think about how you guys felt. We had some very strong feelings in this room about how it affected them. How about this table? Because I was standing here.
I said if somebody did it while you talked, just throw hands.
It is very distracting, and I feel like I get the brunt of it because everybody's fresh and trying it out. And
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God, I can't even keep track of what I'm saying.
So how about your communities, your teams? Do we have these uncivil behaviors during our morning meetings? Do we address those as leaders at the time? Do we let it go? Oh, we'll talk to them later. But then what happens is it builds a culture of incivility. So what do we do now? We've all said cohesively that we're not just going to let it happen. As an individual, we feel stressed about it, anxious. It lowers our job satisfaction. We don't get as much as we want out of the program or our jobs. We have a potential to mimic those behaviors. If we have some very overt uncivil behaviors. We had some that weren't as in our faces. Did anybody else see someone pick up their phone and they were like, I'm going to pick up my phone. And I'm going to look at my messages. So we could mimic these behaviors without even knowing. So we're not going to let somebody get our goats now, right? How do we protect those? We're going to commit to addressing the problem. We're going to foster this culture of civility. We're going to win the race, guys. So this is our race strategy. We're going to promote a culture of civility and respect. We're going to address the root causes. And we're going to continuously support the culture. So in talking about each of these, promoting a culture of respect and civility, active listening, not looking at our phone, making eye contact, not interrupting, having clear, respectful communication. If someone is being uncivil, it may be that something is wrong. It may be being a friend, providing empathy and understanding, giving that person a chance to talk can help. How do you model and promote respectful behaviors in your community? So these bold questions are what I want you to start thinking about as far as your call to commitment. Addressing the root cause, being accountable to yourself, being accountable to your team, your EDD&S. I know each of us has a partner in the community that we are responsible for. ED&S teams. Do you kick somebody under the table? Hey, we'll talk about that later. Or hey, can you get them to pay attention? Let's get back on track. Do you hold each other accountable? And what's your plan to address that poor conduct? Do we stop the meeting and address it? Do we let it go? We talked about this as far as it starts the beginning of the day, a morning meeting. Someone rolls their eyes. Maybe stop it, get people back on track, and address it firmly but fairly later to stop that poor conduct. And then supporting the culture, having open and honest communication, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes. We grow in uncomfortable situations. Recognizing and reinforcing positive behaviors. Think about how we can do that. We're going to do an exercise, a little workshop for each table. Each table is going to get one of these race strategies, either promoting the culture, addressing the root cause, or to support. And there's some questions I want you guys to talk about as a group. And thinking about this morning in John Colby's presentation, try to have input from everybody at the table, because we're going to learn from other people, from our peers today. We're going to share experiences, be vulnerable, be honest, be open.
John Colby told us to make no mistakes.
Wow. Ken's over here saying John
You'll have liars.
That new guy.
There you
go.
Come up with, again, one idea that you want to share.
Which one do we have? I saw it. What strategies will they use to foster? Yeah, I saw them very uncomfortable. I was like, people do recognize, right? Listen to everybody.
Let people talk.
Yeah, let them talk. Right. If somebody gets quiet, they talk and get the situation over with. But they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And instead of, but.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
me when he's going to plan. I'm like,
It wasn't good, was it?
I was like,
Anybody else?
that from the top down, that everyone's opinion is valued, and anyone can come up to you. That's, it's my time. I do sometimes. Sidebar, I just stop. Well, no, the other day, they realized I stopped. I said, well, that must be more important than my meeting. I was sarcastic.
I've done that where like there's like sidebar conversation where you're just like waiting until they're done and it's like that'd be a little they'll finish and then we'll continue. So
Sometimes we just address it head on.
So they respond likely. We've done that too. We're like, guys, and then they don't.
We'll go, hey.
I think it's really kind of hand.
Now, are you talking primarily just with your supervisors?
But it's not done rudely, but they stop what they're doing and pull back in and we get back on track.
We see a lot of, at least in Springfield, no, even though I knew that, I don't care.
Especially in that first video. So we got remain calm, kindness, respect, address life. Sounds about right. Anything else?
There have been times where I think
I usually, mine is humor. Like, maintenance director will go off and I'll just start singing with them. We should get them together, you know? But we do, like I'll just be like, okay, here we go, you know?
In a good way or a not good way?
Yeah, always. What are some effective ways we can
when someone else does it, I feel like that
Are those mainly like floor staff, management, everybody?
I say my manager is whatever happens in our board meeting, we're rude to each other and we're not kind to one another. That's what they perceive.
I will say that floor staff picked up on the fact that like management is like together and working as a team in this collaboration. And they feel that vibe or that culture, and they feel it when it's not there, when it's fractured. And then when it's fractured, they just do whatever they want to
I think positivity is contagious. And so when someone is very positive and then they get everyone around them that supports them positive, it literally just trickles down. Because when someone's toxic, that's the quicker reaction the whole time. Because it's easier for everyone to jump on board when someone's toxic or being negative or shouting. But when it's positive, I think that's harder because you have to do it consistently before everyone picks up on it. Where it takes one negative comment and everyone can jump on board. One positive comment is not enough. It has to. But I don't have community presidents.
One more minute.
I call those development opportunities.
Learning moments.
Yeah.
Teachable moments.
Yeah. Well, it's a continuous improvement. Okay, you don't agree, however, the big picture is. And so then it's kind of like, I will rephrase something 100 times until it meets that person.
Okay, let's come
level
back
how they
together.
interpret it.
Yes, okay. So let's talk about our grace strategies. What tables had promoting a culture of respect and civility? I know a table. All right, Taylor, we're going to let you chat with us. Redeem yourself.
Yeah. You can pass it off to someone.
How about just sharing one idea or question that you guys talked about that you've really focused on, that you guys really felt like could be very impactful?
Leading by example and having intentional conversation with the staff.
Leading by example and having intentional conversations. Great. So that's going to promote that culture of civility. Hearing that and yes from your other teammates.
Yeah. How can we respond when others act with incivility without escalating conflict? Remain calm, kindness, be respectful, address the person later, and acknowledge.
Love, love. So that's a good takeaway for all of the leaders in the room is how do you address that when it's uncomfortable? You kind of ignore it, hope it goes away. And we all remain calm today, right? Sort of. Remain calm and then address it. How about addressing the root cause?
Which table?
I think that's, they're in her brain.
Oh, they're in the way.
Okay.
Huh?
I'm afraid of Omar. Yeah, you should be.
That's our table. Yes. Like,
What are some ways that we can address the root cause of an incivil culture?
We didn't get that far yet,
We did.
You think everybody can hear what I'm saying? All right, so we kind of. I love this group.
Does someone else have
So we took it from the first question is, for us, it was what is one example of civil behavior that may become normalized or overlooked? And we kind of had a table side conversation in regards to the phenomenon that's actually happened in the area, for which, myself, Roland, Beach Grove kind of experienced. And that is this overwhelming pandemic of the marijuana usage in the neighborhood and in the communities. It is becoming normalized within the community and is coming into the facility, rather be it from staff members or also the residents themselves. And so we're kind of thinking of ways of how we can combat that behavior, or how we can, go away from that type of culture to create that positive environment. So we was having a table conversation about that. So discussion's still out. Like, what do we do, to get that type of phenomenon from taking over our facilities and, taking back what we can control?
Yeah, to change the culture, to make it a culture, make it not infiltrate your community.
Yeah, so one of the things, in my portion of the orientation, when we do have experiences like that, if I open the conference room door and I am overwhelmed by smell of that nature, I pretty much just ask everyone that's in the room, okay, who is it? Raise your hand. Then I just ask that person to go home and recheck and come back next week. So it's something that we have to try to control and get a hold of immediately, because again, it will spread widely very fast to be a norm within the community, and next thing you know, you have 100-something employees repeating that same behavior.
Exactly. You let it go that one time, 5 more people will do it the next day and think it's okay, and then more, and it becomes the norm. It's going to be even harder to address and to turn that around. And then,
what other table?
Oh yeah, does anybody else have addressing the root cause?
I mean, we had the address the root cause on ours. So let me see. We did kind of like the table. Oh wait, we did a table talk and everything about a big one about how do you respond when you witness or experience incivility. And a lot of them came from like the morning meeting conversations where it was a lot of side conversations with leadership not agreeing with those conversations, so they weren't interacting. And then kind of like, how does everyone go about that when there is that uncivil behavior? And a lot of them said that they just get quiet and just wait until everyone stops talking. And then it came with the emotions, like frustrated, angry, and kind of like how to go about that. But it seemed like everyone had that common situation. So then it's kind of like, how do you navigate that? And so we didn't come up with any answers.
Okay, great discussion. And then overall, ongoing, we can address the incivil behavior, we can address it at the time, but ongoing, it's going to be something that's repetitive. How do you support that civil culture? That's what really makes it a culture.
So we talked about acknowledge, approach, and body language is a big one, and then don't become automatically defensive. And immediately just have an open mind when you're communicating with somebody, because a lot of times if they're you start getting defensive, or your approach, your body language, that it just shuts down and doesn't really go anywhere.
Absolutely. Being open, recognizing someone may be going through something, having that empathy in those conversations, that can create that civil culture. Any other supporting the culture tables?
Ours was, so ours was support as well, and one of the things that people at tables brought up was that if you set it up right away as to what the expectations are for this meeting, for this group, you were talking about Gemba, and there's no side conversations, we're all in the same conversation here. And then being able for the ED and the DNS to support each other. We talked about getting the look from the ED or the DNS, either way. But then being able to reaffirm the expectation and follow up when you see that. They all said stop the meeting and get quiet. But being able to be on the same page. But if you're proactive with your culture, then everybody knows the rules, and we all do better when we know what the expectation. If we just walk in And it's like, cool, let's go, whatever we want to do. But if you know what your expectation is, just, I mean, I don't mean to dumb it down, but our kids do better, our nieces and nephews do better when you tell them what is expected of them than just letting them go and make the mistake.
We'll have better outcomes. And then we'll all be winners. So,
Okay, just one thing here. One of the aspects of the culture that we've tried to build is about dealing with the young generation, because they cannot go for 5 minutes without their cell phones. And I talk about it every day. And I know my supervisor, he calls me like most of the time 7, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. He will never get a hold of me. I do not hold my cell phone in the building between 8:30 to 11. You will never see my cell phone. So if you talk about it, and every time they start see you talking on a cell phone, walking around the building, they will think it's normal to have your cell phone. So we've made it very clear. My cell phone is never in the conference room during morning meeting, and we just try to make sure this is a message that we have to tell all the staff, and make sure the young generation understand that you can go without your cell phone for a few hours.
yeah, absolutely.
Are you sure they're not?
Supporting.
Can you prove that?
Setting those expectations and supporting that. Many of these ideas aren't difficult. It's just reminding us that this can really help us move forward and win the race to become a civil community and build that civil culture. So unlike the statistics that Greg and Ken were reading and talking to you about earlier, those really negative retain comments, when we have a civil work culture, we have those improved job performances, satisfaction, improved employee trust, lower absenteeism and turnover. I know in my case and a lot of other people's cases that have been with ASC for many, many, many years, the reason I've stayed, I do love my job. I do have a passion for it, but it's because my team has become my family. And so those are the reasons I've stayed. We have a culture of civility. So now for the positive comments. What does creating a civil culture for our employees look like? I absolutely love my job. I felt like the DON really cares about her job and the residents, providing that empathy, creating that culture. My job is to help people. I feel that ASC is a great opportunity to do that here. So you guys all have made really good plans as jockeys to win the race. You guys all have great strategies, hopefully, that you're taking away with you today. So now it's time to turn your head to your commitment cards and put down your bets. Who's going to win? And we hope that you bet on yourselves, your team, and your community today. So take a few minutes and write down what your commitment as a jockey is going to be leaving with today.
So for lunch, I feel better now. I will be. Because you already know.
I mean, that's what my wife tells me. I don't know.
Seriously, last night you celebrated.
As you wrap up your comments, and as you go through your day today, you're going to be gathering or getting a rose at each of the sessions. So this session, you get the white rose, and there is a sticker, if you don't know that, on the bottom of your trophy that tells you a little bit about the color of each rose. So thank you for being a great audience, and enjoy the rest of your day.